Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kútì. He later changed that Ransom Kútì to Aníkúlápó. Chief Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kútì. She was an activist, feminist, and the first woman, of course, in Nigeria that we know that drove a car. And she's recognized as the first, female political activist called the Mother of Africa. Her full name, Francis Abigail Olufumilayo Thomas. Chief Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kútì, of course, was born on the 25th of October 1900 to Mrs. Lucretia Phyllis Omoyeni Adesholu and Mr. Daniel Olumeyua Thomas. Was the first female student at the Abeokuta Grammar School, a secondary school, which she attended in 1914 to 1917. And that when she was admitted in that school, they were boys. That time, the parents always want the male children to go to school. Mentality at that time was that the female children will end up in the husband's house, will end up in the kitchen, in the other room, of course. And so those ones should remain at home. So in that school that day, there were only 6 female students that were admitted, and Chief Mrs. Fumilayo was the first female student that was admitted that day in 1914. So she attended that Abeokuta Grammar School and completed her education in England. She returned to Nigeria and became a teacher. She was then married to an Anglican clergyman and teacher, Reverend Israel Oladotun Ransom Kútì, in 1925. So Fela's father is an Anglican Reverend. On 30th December 1927, she now gave birth to her first son, Olikoye Ransom Kútì, who later became the Minister of the Federal Republic, the former Minister of Health. Ransom Kútì. So Chief Mrs. Ransom Kútì now became the leader of the Nigerian Union of Students and later joined the Nigerian Union of Teachers. In 1932, when her husband now became the principal of the Abeokuta School, she helped organize the Abeokuta Ladies Club, initially a civic and charitable group of mostly Western educated Christian women at that time. But she now came in and arranged that club. Then in 1938, she now gave birth to her second son, Fela Aníkúlápó Kútì. That is where we are going to now. So 2 years later, he now gave birth to Beko Kútì, 3 boys. So her activism continued. The organization gradually became more political and feminist in its orientation. And of course, this is feminism. Now Fela mother started more. So all these people who are forming feminism, they learn work for where this woman did. And in 1944, she started bringing in market women, and vendors into the Abeokuta open air markets, who were generally those ones who were so impoverished and illiterate and exploited by colonial authorities. She started bringing them into this organization to be able to protect them from the colonial masters at that time. Now in 1946, the Abeokuta Ladies Club, ALC, now changed its name to the Abeokuta Women's Union and opened its membership to all women in Abeokuta. Mrs. Ransom Kútì now became the first president of that organization, Abeokuta Women Union, in 1946. Under her leadership, the Abeokuta Women Union became the national organization, renaming itself to the Nigeria Women Union. In 1949, the Federation of the Nigeria Women Society. So they changed their name with time as they keep growing. Now the Abeokuta Women Union now initially campaigned against price control that brought about Gary War. She also fought against unfair treatment of the women and all that. She also protested the special tax on women imposed by the local rulers. One of the things that also led to about women riot. Tax on women, and all those things. So at a point, there was a particular man who was called Saladopo Ademola II, who was one of the leaders at that time of that group. Because of her struggle, that man was removed from office temporarily. That was in 1949. But there was a time, the colonial master, one of the white men, told her she was talking and the women were also talking. And one of the man now asked her to keep quiet. They keep quiet and ask your woman to keep quiet. You know what Mrs. Ransom Kútì said? They never, in pidgin parlor, he said they don't born you well.
They never born you well.
So by late 1947, Abeokuta authorities now began forbidding women from organizing parades or demonstrations because of this woman, denying them, the necessary permits, But when she now discovered that, okay, this is what these people want to do, Mrs. Ransom Kútì now declared that they were planning picnics and a festival instead of, protests. So she now brought about 10,000 participants. And they started demonstration.
Mama, we get doing.
So when the police now saw these things, they came in and they started having an altercation with the police. And to the extent that Chief Mrs. Ransom Kútì now trained women on how to deal with tear gas canisters when thrown at them. She trained women. If they throw themselves, we go do them, and all those things. There was not tension between she and the protesters and authorities. Now, in that 1948, when she gathered this woman for that protest, the then Alake now compared this woman to vipers that could not be tamed and banned Ransom Kútì from entering his palace for any political meeting. Immediately after, she packed this woman, blocked the palace. And, and some of the British people that came for that meeting and all that, she stopped them from leaving after the meeting. At a point, one of them entered the vehicle and wanted to move, and Chief Mrs. Ransom Kútì held the steering of the vehicle. They had to struggle to remove her hand before that man ran for his life. So that 1947, the NCNC, the Nigerian Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, the political party, now sent a delegation to England because of her activism. She was the only sole woman in that delegation. And in 1951, she ran as an NCNC candidate for the regional assembly. During the early 1950s, she was appointed the Western House of Chiefs and granted a chieftaincy title of Oloye of the Yoruba people. That's why she got Chief Mrs. That's where it came from. She was the first woman appointed to the Western House and one of the few women to have a position in any Nigerian House of Chiefs at the same time. And on the 6th of April 1955, unfortunately, Reverend Israel Ransom Kútì died from prostate cancer after an extended period. And this actually hit Mrs. Fumilayo so much that by the loss of her husband, the man was really behind her during this activism. Now, after the death of the husband, she now came back to her activism, and she fought for gender equality, started a campaign to help Nigerian women obtain the right to drive a car, created the Commoners People's Party to challenge the ruling NCNC at that time. She did not break up because she also had a problem with them. You just start her own. Now, during the Cold War, she traveled to several countries of the Eastern Bloc, including USSR, that was one of the world power then, China and Hungary. It was when she traveled to China that she now met Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was the then leader of China. They call their own leader. We call our own president. This Mao Zedong was the one who invented, who brought about the name People Republic of China that you hear today. It was this man, Mao Zedong. This man met Chief Mrs. Fumilayo in 1956, and she was one of the most influential people who negotiated for the independence of Nigeria with the British authorities. Now, this is how she died. Her second son, Fela, was sent to England to go and read law. But when he went there, the guy knew that I'll not be lawyer, I'll be musician. He went and registered in one of these music schools in that place, studied music very well, came back and started doing his music and all that. He was now started composing his songs in public. Each week at the Afro Sport New Works that was premiered at that time, and Fela will talk the audience through the meaning of the lyrics. Sometimes when he's singing, people will not understand. He will now calm down and be explaining to people the meaning of what what he was singing about, and then how it is being translated in the in the polity and all that. That was where we started hearing water no get enemy, chop and quench, palava, shakara, oloje.
Soldier go, soldier come.
Now it now amazed to become the part of the urban folklore in that time in Lagos. Now, not only were the songs massive and locally hit songs, but many Lagosians became so addicted and started falling for this guy. Between 1970 and 71, Fela set a pace which was incredible, not only in terms of his musical growth, but also his philosophical ideology. The issue he raised while discussing the lyrics of these songs, he began to form public speaking, which he termed yabis, and started teasing government officials for their inefficiency. What they call yabbing.
They yabbed.
So, and at a point, he now started expressing freedom in taking marijuana.
Hey, oui.
And Nigeria government can't turn eyes, started to look the guy. Who is this guy? So sometime in 1974, Fela moved from his Surulere base to former Ambassadors Club, a famous night club then owned by one Igbo business tycoon then. It was called Chief Kanu. Now this club was later called African Shrine, and it was here that Fela began to incorporate the ritualistic element of his performance that time, which we now know as as African Shrine now. It started by pouring of libation. At the other time, they will bring magicians. They will come and perform some magics in that place. One Yoruba guy will come there, disappear and appear. Performing magic. People liked it. They started coming. Some other priests from Cotonou, Togo, and some other parts in West African countries used to come to that place to perform, some of these things, and they pour libation all to the god of Africa. That was where the African Shrine thing started. So, the African Shrine was now located right opposite Fela's mother's house. See where the problem comes. And by this time, Fela has built what they call a commune, still close to that place too. And his presence now attracted a lot of commercial activities in the area, including a swamp of marijuana dealers.
Oh, oui.
It was this period from 1974 to 76 that both his lifestyle and political attitudes, now clashed. And the Nigerian authorities said, we need to check this boy very well. So apart from openly advocating the smoking of marijuana, according to Fela, he said it was the god of Africa that gave this thing free to people to be taken. Why is it that Nigeria wants to ban it and all that? And now, he started having problems with some of his dancers and some of his players of the band left. So he started incorporating those ladies. That's the way he started incorporating a lot of those ladies, and some of them now became his singers. Started taking the choruses, and the mood of his music started changing. People started liking it the more because female voices, taking the chorus and all that. And sometime around that time, we all heard that he got married to 28 of those women and pledged himself to husband of 28 women.
All right.
One day. We heard that Fela got married to 28 women one day. Now the state began to fight this guy. Both his political criticism and what some government officials refer to as immoral lifestyle. Military started coming to raid his house because commercial sales workers started coming, marijuana and all that. So they started raid. So sometimes they will come with police, sometimes they will only the military. Now during the raid, Fela was now arrested and taken to a notorious Alagbon close jail, where he was hailed as a hero by prisoners and installed as the president of the toughest cell in that place. Named after the infamous dark hole of Calcutta, but pronounced Kalakuta. This Calcutta, where this Kalakuta get name from? This Calcutta was a prison cell in India. When India took over, India later fought Britain, arrested a lot of British prisoners, put them in this Calcutta cell, and over 126 of them died of suffocation and dehydration. So this our own now was now called, after that Calcutta, they would now call it Kalakuta. This marked a major turning point in the Fela's life, and after some time, they now released him. When he came back, he now released Zombie.
Oh, Zombie.
So, after some time, he started having problems with his record label too. And one of the people who owned that record label was Chief MKO Abiola. And that was where Fela released that song, International Thief Thief. Because he wanted to, insult MKO Abiola, one of the owners of that Decca record label, which he was under. Now, Fela began to tour Nigeria because by this time he has become popular. He began to tour Nigeria, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Aba, Benin City, Warri, Jos, Kaduna, and you'll be having like 50,000 people coming to his shows and all that. So the government was like, "Who is this boy? This guy is not stoppable. How?" And the first tax 77 come near, and they discovered that this guy will steal this show. And the marijuana thing, the two women thing, this guy will be a problem.
Go begin with for first tax.
So they tried to stop him. But during this festival, the African Shrine can't even the full passer. Many people that even came for the first time were now going to African Shrine.
Ew.
And instead of Fela who was doing 1 or 2 shows before, he was doing like 3-4 shows a night. 3-4 shows. And at a point in early 1978, few months after that festa, his home was now raided again, and this time it came with in short, it was only the military that came, and it came with a tragic consequence. According to Fela, he said the government felt humiliated by the amount of attention he got during the Festac in 1977. During the raid, when they were beating Fela and all that, as a mother now, you come and leave what my pikin do. So one of the military, till today, that guy is not known. They call him an unknown soldier.
Unknown soldier.
Thank you. The guy held Fela's mother's hair, dragged the woman from upstairs and threw her down.
Cara Benadi, complications, and an old woman that time.
At 70 something, 77. Till today, no name.
He's supposed to die because he not supposed to stay alive.
That person, unknown soldier.
You carry person mama like that, carry him from off through where I'm go down.
When his mother died,
I'm not sure that person get mother.
When his mother died, some months later, from a complication from the injuries and that she received, Fela now led a protest march carrying a coffin to the official residence of the then head of state in Central Lagos. That was former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Took him to the residence of the head of state and also wrote one of his most tragic hits, Unknown Soldier, which contained the heart-rending lamentation. They kill my mama, political mama, the only mama in Africa.